I will be playing clips of this video. To watch the full video, go to YouTube. In it, it talks about the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 total. Notice number 13. 13 as the all-seeing eye. 13 as the 13th bloodline of the Illuminati. 13 as the Merovingian dynasty, which I cover in past teaching, which happens to be the Papal bloodline. The 13 Holy Grail bloodline, as in the Holy See. And it also shows you the role that King Charles plays. The District of Columbia. Like I explained in past teaching, these 3 cities run the world. Washington, D.C., the beast. City of London, the dragon. Vatican City, false prophet. The King of Babylon sits in America. All U.S. presidents -1 is related to the King of England. Synagogue of Satan, Vatican, 3 cities that run the world. There's a difference between religion and faith. There you go. Bread and circuses, religion. Religion is just another way they control people. And this happened on June 10th. World Meeting on Human Fraternity. And that happened in the Vatican. A group of people sharing common profession or interest. After all, Catholic means universal. In the scriptures, it tells you that God sealed us on our forehead and on our hand. Your forehead, your pineal gland, is your worship. Your hand, money. Great Awakening chart. Vatican owns all world currency. Babylonian money magic slave system. So this 7 years is meant to protect Mother Earth. Mother Earth or Gaia is another name for Lucifer, the fertility goddess. Interesting that they have this picture of the dead bee because we're the bees. Honeycomb Earth. I cover in past teaching how the firmament is shaped like a honeycomb. And we represent the bees. The Pope is the keeper of the bees. In other words, anybody under the Pope is in his covenant, as a witch's covenant. That's why they also have the beehive in Freemasonry. Like I said earlier, your hand and your forehead, your government and your religion. The same thing applies for Beyonce's fans. The beehive, you're in covenant with her. And you should know by now that she's a witch. Queen, Antichrist. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown. And he rode out as a conqueror, bent on conquest. And remember, all roads lead to Rome.
A major global event will confirm a 7-year peace and safety covenant under King Charles, which my guest, Craig Bong, will discuss. This sounds like 1 Thessalonians 5 and Daniel 9 coming to pass, which was written thousands of years ago. This major global event will include over 140 heads of states, government leaders, over 80,000 delegates, and more than 5,000 media professionals. Stay tuned because we're going to discuss a document that hardly anyone knows about, which is their blueprint for how they want you and I to drastically change our lives. Craig, tell us more about this 7-year covenant.
Basically, this 7-year covenant has been planned for since 2015 under the Paris Climate Agreement. And they've been counting down every single year since 2015. So in 2016, they said we had 14 years left. In 2017, we had 13 years left. And this year, 2023, we're down to 7 years left.
And so what's their urgency? Why do they, tell me about the covenant that is coming this year, the 7-year covenant.
The 7-year covenant this year will be on, it'll be on the last day of COP. That's the day that all deals are made. That's December 12th. And that'd be the Global New Green Deal, or whatever name they're going to give this thing.
Okay, now for people who don't understand what COP is, to explain what COP is.
The COP stands for the UNFCCC, or Conference of the Parties. And this began basically in 1992 with the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, and every year, or almost every year since then, we have a Conference of the Parties, unless otherwise determined that they don't need one. So we're at the 28th Conference of the Parties.
Okay, now
for climate change.
Right.
The whole emphasis is climate change.
Okay, now how is King Charles involved in this?
King Charles is referred to as the godfather of this event.
The UN, our common agenda, and I was like looking at that and had the 17 goals to transform the world. I found it interesting that the 13th goal, which was the climate action, was the all-seeing eye, which is...
Yes, it's the all-seeing eye.
which is always connected to everything. I mean, our dollar and everything, all connected to Freemasonry.
Well, this common agenda also is to form a political declaration worldwide defining our duties in the future. So it tells you how you're going to live in the future. And third, the brief proposes a dedicated intergovernmental forum. So there's three aspects to this common agenda. So this was released on March the 9th, 2023 at the UN.
I mean, the thing that is alarming is that they say we have no more time. I mean, I hear King Charles saying this, and basically the Pope, that we have no more time. We have to start this 7-year.
We have to strengthen this deal now. So we have to conform by their living standards for the next 7 years, or we're never going to attain those goals.
Right, which they're saying is basically almost like the world is just going to implode. For policymakers, which was part of the synthesis report, and I just want to read some of the things that I thought were pretty alarming on there. They've had behavioral change supported by policy, so that means our behavior is going to have to change. Water use, I mean, how much water we're allowed to use. Planned relocation and resettlement, what is that? Social safety nets. There's and then they just keep on saying there's we only have this short window of opportunity, and they give a diagram trying to say we have no more time, talking about the surveillance state control, monitoring us, have everybody on electric cars, limiting our travel, limiting what we're allowed to eat, which also will cause a loss of jobs. But as you said, it's really like communism, because then it eliminates the middle class.
Needed to mitigate climate change within the synthesis report. Number one is to retire coal plants. Number two is to invest in clean energy and efficiency. Number three is to retrofit and carbonize buildings. That's all buildings, by the way. That's not just one here, one there, or all new construction. That is everything that's built today has to be retrofitted.
Okay, so what does that even mean? Does that mean all of us have to spend $100,000?
You have to spend all this money on your house, or you get kicked out. And then if you get kicked out, the government owns your house. So this is tons of money. Globally, it's trillions of money that nobody has. Number four is to decarbonize cement, steel, and plastics. Number five is to shift to electric vehicles. That's everybody, by the way. By 2035, all electric vehicles. Number six, to increase public transport, biking and walking. So you have to take the bus, or you have to ride your bike, or you have to walk to wherever you need to go.
Yeah, that was in the video showing that that's how they want us to just be on bicycles all the time.
They're already doing that in Seattle under our governor. He's trying to implement that within Seattle. So he'll go on a bike trip and say how we need to change how we move about. Number seven is to decarbonize aviation and shipping. Number eight is to halt deforestation and restore degraded lands, which isn't in of itself bad, but it's the enforcement behind it. Number nine, reduce food loss and waste and improve agricultural practices. According to John Kerry, the current U.S. Special Envoy for Climate and Agriculture Production, the agriculture alone creates 33% of gas emissions. And he argues that reducing those emissions must be front and center in the quest to defeat global warming. That means do away with the small farmer from here on out, beginning in 2023. There's more that I'll bring up in a little bit, and the mandates that King Charles has planned for beginning in 2023 for the next 7 years. There's 10 big findings within the synthesis report. It's unprecedented changes in climate. That's the number one reason we need to enforce a deal right now.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. Future risk will escalate because of these climate changes. More finance is needed to bring about a change in renewable energies.
Of course, more money.
And more money
for them.
Printing it off. Some climate impacts can't be reversed as of today. So and that's true, because you can see like Madagascar, where they've deforested the lands, and it's completely changed the tropical regions into desert.
Right. So there's some truth to some of what they're saying.
Yeah, there's some truth to what they're saying, but
Right,
but
but not
they're
that we're on the
but
brink of
but they
disaster.
want to do this without God, and that's what it boils down to. There's no God, and it's all evolution based.
Right. But yeah. Well, we won't go into all the lies behind it, but yeah, go on.
Then they believe that the global emissions will peak by 2025. So it's urgent that we make declarations now. The world must abandon fossil fuels. That's your coal, oil, and gas.
Right. So that means all of us who have a gas stove can't have a gas stove anymore.
Yeah,
If we,
they say it's our number one cause of climate crisis is because we're using fossil fuels. Which I saw an article the other day that some people believe that our fossil fuels, such as oil and gas, are in fact renewable, and that, I guess that would be debatable, but it renews over time. So on to say we need urgent system-wide transformations immediately, and carbon removal is essential. That's you and me, by the way. That's the carbon they want to eliminate.
right, because we are carbon.
Yeah, we are carbon, and then a dramatic increase in finance within the next 7 years. And they have a formula for that, how much per year they need to push to bring this about. And then a just transition is necessary, and that's their final point. Part of Accelerator. Well, there's another event that happened before that, and that's the UK-Israel 7-year agreement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, why don't you talk about that?
At the countdown of 37 weeks ago, the UK and Israel signed an agreement for the 2030 roadmap for bilateral relations. And it has 12 visions. The first vision is for partnership. The second vision is for anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias. Third one is for defense and security. The fourth one is for trade and investment. The fifth one is for cyber. The sixth one is for science, innovation, and technology. The seventh one is a big one, is for climate. The eighth one is for health. That's also a big one because that plays a huge factor in the tribulation. The ninth one is for culture. The 10th one is for education and higher education. The 11th one is development, and the 12th one is gender equality, which we see a big push this month, being the month of June, for so-called gender equality.
Okay, so the 7-year agreement with the UK and Israel, do you think that fulfills Bible prophecy? And I know the climate thing is really the big thing with it too.
The climate's the biggest, I believe, is the biggest issue within it. And they believe, within their vision statement, they believe that the two countries complement each other strengths. And the roadmap defines their bilateral cooperation through 2030. So that's a full 7 years.
Okay, right. So this is this is connected with the other 7-year covenant that you're talking about that is going to be happening in Dubai.
Yeah, and this is to enable profound advancements in peace and security.
That's the thing.
That's the key word right there.
Yes, I know they keep on saying that this is going to make peace and security, just like the scriptures talk about when they say peace and security.
Yeah. When they cry peace and security, then sudden destruction, it falls upon them. And that's 1 Thessalonians 5:3. Cities have announced its support for the Terra Carta mandate and its underlying principles for a warlike footing for a transition to a state sustainable future. And so this is war. It's basically a war on humanity.
Yeah.
We have to reduce the world's population to save Mother Earth.
Connected to all of this.
The Pope works he's the banner for this whole agreement. So actually, in May 24th, I believe it's May 24th, 2015, he initiated his Laudato Si platform, which was the banner movement for the Paris Climate Agreement, which was agreed to on December 12th of 2015 and enforced on November 4th of 2016. So his was the first initiative for a 7-year, 7-sector, 7-year covenant, which we're in right, by the way, right now. And that began with the hiring of individuals for that Laudato Si January 3rd of 2021. Amazing.
Saying that with the whole climate agenda is also for peace and security.
About 3 weeks ago, on May 23rd of this year, there was a statement. It's been 7 years since Paris, and it's only 7 years until 2030. And COP28 announces time is running out to reduce emissions by 43%. That's a big reduction. That's 43% of us too. So the Pope writes a letter to the G7 addressed to the Bishop of Hiroshima. These are the G7s were the most wealthy of the world's, the most wealthy nations kick off together to talk about and make decisions about what needs to happen in the months ahead. And the Pope said he was praying that the summit would demonstrate a far-sighted vision and laying foundations for lasting peace and stable and long-term sustainable security. And he described a world in which we live that is multipolar in the 21st century, and goes on to say the pursuit of peace is closely related to the need for security. So we have this big push, a combination of peace and security being issued or stated by the Pope. And then he goes on to say, within this perspective, global security needs to be integral, capable of embracing issues including access to both food and water, respect for the environment, healthcare, energy sources, and equitable distribution of the world's goods. The UN will produce a video or show a video to the world that we only have 7 years left to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. That's going to be a major event.
Oh my goodness!
We're 4 months. We're approximately 4 months or less from that video being released.
Okay, and do you know anything more about what's going to? The video is probably going to be some of the videos that we're seeing.
It's pretty much like the video they had last year at the UN General Assembly, where they announced there was 8 years left to go, and they showed it, I believe, a bee dead. So that was the video. We all know that King Charles was crowned on May 6th of 2023 at his coronation, but there was a press release that he released on May 5th, the day before his coronation, and it's called the Terra Carta Accelerator. And in the next 7 years, he's going to make 5 initiatives. I refer to them as mandates on water use and land, and 5 initiatives on land use per year through the next 7 years, through 2030. That means in the next 7 years, there's going to be 70 mandates against land use and water use issued by King Charles.
Right, which is going to then start limiting our food. What other implications?
It limits your food. For example, because we already talked about it, it limits the eating meat, for example. It will be eliminated. I believe that's probably connected to one of the initiatives. Land use, so you can't develop on certain lands. We're seeing a push for that already. They'll take the small farmers out of business, and then you have to convert those farms back to the native habitat.
Okay, now, we talked about how this seems to be a fulfillment of 1 Thessalonians 5:3 of when they say peace and security, peace and safety. But how does this 7-year covenant, how do you think that this fulfills the prophecy in Daniel 9?
King Charles is cooperating and working behind the scenes for this event. He's the one that's making the moves through the Sustainable Markets Initiative and the Terra Carta to strengthen the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Climate Agreement, towards this COP28 event. And so he's already working to make greater the Paris Climate Agreement. Behind the scenes is good health and well-being. That's what, and that's coming with the mark of the beast. The fourth one is quality education, and so there's 169 targets to these 17 goals, but the number one most important target to them is your children, and they want to re-educate all your children. So you believe their agenda, and you don't believe the agenda of your parents. And it's taken them basically 2 generations to change the thought process of your children.
Yeah, now that reminds me because I remember years ago Hillary Clinton saying that a change that she wanted to make was that children would be in school more hours during the day. I remember this so well, that there would not be a summer vacation, but that they would be in school, the whole year, and as many hours. So this way, the parents would have little influence over them. It sounded very scary.